Recording. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. This is a very special way to close out our 50th anniversary. We're so excited to have Edna here. A few small announcements. First off, this is being recorded today, so it will be on our YouTube channel when we get it edited and up. Where for No Gives is happening right now, and both the library and the Friends of the Library are participating. It's a great way to donate for Christmas time. Next week is our last regular Thursday program, and we're showing Christmas in Yellowstone movie. Very nice, great way to kick off the holidays. Also that Thursday night, we're doing holiday music bingo over at the Mountain Merman Brewery, lots of fun. And then next Friday, because it's December the 13th, Friday the 13th in December, we're showing The Nightmare Before Christmas at the theater. And that's our last regular movie night for 2025, and there's free refreshments there. Thank you, Sarah, for making some delicious chocolate chip cookies today. And this is, Edna's just a wealth of information when it comes to the history of the library. She did bring this painting from home. We also have this shadow box up here. And back behind, we have some photo albums.
At 8:30 a.m. they get to make it Saturday.
Possessed.
Hang on. One second. I have no idea where that's coming from.
Or who it is.
Well, maybe it was fine without it.
That is the weirdest thing.
Well, we'll just do without
We'll
it
do
now.
it.
Can you hear it okay? All right, so we're going to leave these photo albums up through closing today. So if you'd like to come up and search through them and just see take a walk down memory lane, that's highly encouraged. So let's give a big hand to Edna. Thank you for coming. Take it away. Yes.
Okay, for those who don't know me, my name is Edna Schmidt, and I have been a resident of Veta for 65 plus years. And I was one of the people who started the library in the very beginning. There were 3 of us women who met together and decided that Veta needed to have a library. And I was probably the least likely to take on this project because I had never even been in a library before in my life. So it was a whole new experience for me. So in 1974, Cleo Brunelli and a lady by the name of Rose Cazzetti and myself decided to start a library for Veta. So I went to the town board and asked if there was any place that they knew of that we could have for a small library. So at that time, they were meeting in the old town hall, and they said we could have half of the town hall building. So as you'll see by the pictures here on top, we had half of that building, which you know is not a very big building, and they had the other half for their cashier. So Rose Cazzetti then made a trip to Pueblo, to the library, and they sent her back with a whole carload of books.
Wow.
So we started putting up books. And we used to joke about having storing our books in this jail cell because we had the smartest prisoners in the state. and we never had any prisoners, but anyway, we were allowed to use the jail cell for storage. So we were there, and we had a librarian. Her name was Willis Schaff, and she was actually a volunteer. And I cannot remember the hours that we were open, but I know that we were not open every day, all day. So then in 1976, the Niebuhr House, which is this house right here, came up for sale. And we were encouraged to purchase it, and we said, oh, sure, we don't have any money, and so what are we gonna do? But there was a gentleman here, his name was John Hurleman. Maybe some of you remember him, that he was Nancy Christopherson's first husband, offered us $7,500 to make the down payment on the house.
Wow.
And I don't know, I'm sorry, what we paid for the house, but I would expect that it was in the neighborhood of 20 or 25,000. So then, I was encouraged to go to talk to a rancher here whose name was Fred Crawford, to see if he would consider loaning us the balance of the money that we needed. So I did, and he said he would be glad to do that. So he loaned us the balance of the money at an interest rate of 5%. And at the end of the year, he would write us a check for the interest that we had paid. So we had an interest-free loan. We did all kinds of little things to try to raise the money to meet our payments, and we never missed one. We had a very loose board. In fact, we didn't have a library board to speak of. While we were at the town hall, there were just the three of us that took care of it then. So then when we moved in here, and this is the house at that time, then we had to have a board because we had a debt, and we needed a way to satisfy the debt. So we took on the job of raising money to make our payments. And then in 1978, Gilbert Arnold remodeled the garage for us as just a donation. And so we got to use that then for part of the library. The kitchen part of the house was behind where the desk is now at the library. Those rooms in the back were the old kitchen. And we left the kitchen there because it had cabinets that went clear to the ceiling, and we used it for storage and for paperwork. And besides that, we used the kitchen to make punch and do things that, as we were doing fundraisers for the library. The biggest thing that I remember that we did is we had a carnival in the park, and we had all kinds of booths, and we just had a lot of fun doing that. Then in 1986, well, go back a little further. In 1980, and I remember the year, that's the year I went to work for San Isabel. And so I know that was the year. So in 1980, I was elected again to see if we could form a library district. In order to do that, you have to have two governing entities that are willing to support you, not financially, but just be a sponsor for you. So I went back to the town board, and of course they agreed, yes, that they would be glad to do that. So then I went to the commissioners meeting in Walsenburg, and they did the same thing. So, in well, it would have been in November probably. That was an election year, so we started out campaigning to be able to form a library district so that we would have the money to improve our library and to pay a librarian. And we got to have our election at the same time the general election, so it didn't cost us to have a special election for that purpose. And we won the election. So in January of 1981, then we started on the tax rolls. And that was a big shot in the arm for us because we were really struggling to make ends meet. And so we got to do a lot of things then and could actually buy books instead of just have to rely on donations. Then when we moved into the building at first in '76, then Willishaw chose not to move with us, and so we hired Cindy Perotti, and many of you knew her, and she worked for us for, I don't know really how long, but for a while. And then when she was through and wanted, was involved in Kuchera a lot, then Judy Welch became our librarian, and she was here for many years. But in 1986, then we built the children's room on, and that is the children's room today. That's they still use it for the same thing. Then, as time went on, and the computer age came in, and there were a lot of new people came in with a lot of ideas because they had, come from cities that had big libraries, and they knew what libraries could look like. And so they were very interested in being on the board and taking, not taking charge, but had new ideas. And so then I decided that it was time for me to retire. I was not into the computer age, and I was working, and so I retired from the library board after 25 years.
Wow.
I spent 25 years as chairman of the library board here. That's what the picture is on the bottom here, was that retirement party that they did. And the picture, actually, it was given to me by the board and painted by a woman here named Marge Bradley, who is a great artist. And another thing, an interesting piece of information was, how many of you have been in the community center and noticed the train painting around the wall? That was originally done for the library by Mary Hicks, who was Marge Bradley's mother. And she did it, and it was along the wall above the shelving, and before there were any offices or anything there, before all the remodel was done. So that's basically my story of the library in its beginning, and I am very glad to have been a small part of that beginning.
It's terrific.
And I hope that all of you will use it a lot. And I'm very proud to have the best small library in our town, in the state.
Right.
So that's a real good thing.
And
Okay,
then,
Tom.
when the house was donated, were walls taken down, like, to make it one big room except for the kitchen and for the children's room? Or
No,
was it all separate little rooms?
no, that, as you come in the door in the front, in that room, that's the original room, right there. And we had shelving on both sides. There were no rooms on the south side where they have the offices now.
Okay.
Those weren't there.
Okay.
Those were built on when the addition was done.
Oh,
And I don't know where the bedrooms in the house were, or I'm
Yeah.
sure just one, because it's a very small house. But then, of course, like I said, the kitchen was
right.
behind where the,
Where was the garage that you mentioned?
it's still there. It's on the side right here, where
Oh,
the
okay.
bicycles are parked in front of it.
Oh.
Yeah, they
okay.
use it for the, I think you have like specialty things, gardening and
Sure.
medical and all those different specialty books in there.
Mhm.
And so that was the garage and still
Okay.
is. And then all the rest of it was put on after I retired. David?
Something that was kind of fun, one of my cherished childhood memories is before we had a book nook, we had a book tub. So in the bathroom was full of the books that were
Oh, okay.
being discarded and being for sale and everything. So
Okay.
that was really pretty neat, was the bathtub was just full
That's
of
right.
books.
That's good.
That's right.
Right into the bathtub.
I had a book tub that everything went in there that we didn't know what else to do with all
Right.
this. So, thank you, David. I
Sure.
didn't remember that. And so, that's great. It was a great, adventure. But you might remember some more things about the house that I don't remember. That's been 50 years ago. And so, that's a long time for me.
I do remember it with the garage, there was just a little kind of pass-through door that was kind of behind where the desk was. And I remember that was kind of a meeting room, because I remember having like writers group and some things in there. So it was like the books were kind of around the walls, and then there was kind of a long table when when this would have been probably the,
In the garage.
yeah, late
Garage part,
80s,
yeah.
something like that, before, mid-80s probably, so.
Oh, probably.
That was kinda how it
Yeah,
was
before there was
laid
any
out.
meetings,
Yeah,
before we remodeled it.
before the back was built, yeah.
Yeah.
When was the remodel? That was the
2005.
Pardon?
2005 was when we put this addition on.
Oh,
Yeah.
This edition here, yeah.
The first one was done
seven-
in,
seven-
in, what, 1978. And then the second one was done in 1986 when we added the children's room, and then the other was done in, what did you say, Sarah?
2005 was when we put on the meeting room and the space below, which almost doubled the size of the library.
Okay, and then when was the rest of it done?
2005 was
This was the
when-
same,
was when
this was done at the
was
same
done.
time.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know the dates, but
Hmm?
I was very glad to see that, the grant that they got to do all this. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, when this construction was going on, the library met where the photographer's studio is, across the street, at the end of Main Street. And that's where the books and everything was, because I was on the board at the time that the construction was going on. And for movies, I have a friend who's a writer from the Midwest, Tony Beasley, and he's come and spoken, given authors talks. He just loved this one evening because there was a library-sponsored movie, but that little building on the corner was too small. And so what Sandy did was somehow made arrangements for a sheet to be hung. I think it's in the capture, where the real estate office on the end of the corner, Bachman or the one next door. But she put a sheet on the end of the wall and had folding chairs. And Tony just thought that was the best thing ever, and I'm sure he wrote a story about it. Because it was just a sheet, you know, in about 2004 or something like that.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
I know. Yeah.
Sandy was a librarian when that got its award.
Sandy orchestrated this whole edition. Yeah.
She was actually the library director, Sandy
Yeah.
was. Now, I don't know who the librarian was then, after I, got away from it. But,
Right.
Is that when we got the 5 stars? What year did that happen, do you know? When the 5
I
stars
think in the
happened?
early 2000s it started.
Okay.
I want to say 2008 was the
Oh,
first one.
2008. Okay.
Sarah, correct me if that's wrong, but I think it's 2008.
that's right, but I'm not positive.
Yeah.
and that was what?
The 5-star designation for being a very important library based on circulation
Oh, right.
and other services. And I
There,
think it's always maintained that every year, right? Yeah.
when we first had the library here, there were no interlibrary loans.
Right.
It was a library with donated books at first until we, like I said, got on the tax rolls, and then we could have money to buy new books,
And magazines too, maybe.
in magazines. But that was the only services that we could offer. Well, the only ones I knew about, but it was, and I can't remember. I know one other lady that was on the board, and that was Evelyn Hikus, and she was the librarian at the school
Oh, yes.
too at the time, and I don't know who else was on the board. And so I wish we had better records of that, but
Right.
you know.
Well, Cindy Perorty was the librarian when I moved here in 1996.
Oh, was she that
Yeah.
long? Huh?
Yeah. And she sat at a little desk right at the door.
Right.
Yeah.
Then after her was Judy Welch. Well, she was here longer than I remembered then. So, good. See,
Write that down, Edna.
everybody has information, and that's good.
Yeah.
So, any other questions or discussions? Well, I thank you all for coming, and this has been, it's been a pleasure for me to get to do it, because I'm actually about the only one left that
I know.
started out. Cleo Brunelli still lives here, but she does not like being involved in things like that, so she was just with us at the onset of the idea, and that's about all. So, but anyway.
So, and why do you have Jean Morey's book, La Vida Posse, there? I have a copy of it too, but is it a special?
This belongs to the library now.
Oh, okay.
I didn't, that isn't anything I brought.
Okay.
It
That was the first purchased book in
Oh,
this
really?
library.
Is
Yep.
that right? Yeah?
Yep.
And Jean sold it to you for $50.
I can tell you a lot of stories about G.
Oh,
He was related to me.
really?
His sister was my husband's stepmother,
His sister was,
so we knew the family really well.
what was his sister's married name?
Millie,
Oh,
we called her Millie,
okay.
little Millie.
That's great.
So, but anyway,
Yeah.
He was quite a character,
Quite a character.
yeah. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, I really don't have anything to add.
I was just gonna say, people should look at the albums up there. If you've never seen
Yeah,
the
that's
50th
true.
anniversary, because there was a lot of things that I completely forgotten, that a lot of things happened here, you know, a lot of interesting programs and just fun
Oh, you
things.
mean things that happened here in the library?
Yeah.
Who put the albums together? Who did the albums?
Oh, I'm sure the staff
Was
here.
it,
It's been curated over decades,
Okay.
so up until you kind of stopped getting printed photos and everything went digital. They kind of stopped about 2004. But
and there's still stuff on the Levita Public Library on YouTube, right? There's still programs on there?
yep. Yeah, if you just go to YouTube and search Levita Public Library, you'll find our channel, and the programs are, you can search for them individually or go to the playlist where they're kind of categorized depending on what kind of program it was.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you, Edna.
You're interested enough to want to know the history of Swan.
Well, you started the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, wonderful service to the community.
Huge work.
I wanted to make a donation for the Latino gifts. Should I just, whoever's down there, or should I?
Okay,
Should I give it to Jen?
if you wanted to go to Where for No Gives.
No, I wanted to be the library.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, just give it to Jamie. Thank you.
That was in.
Oh, that just shocked me.